Oh yeah, dude, she is playful. 2020 Chevrolet Camaro SS 1LE versus a 2002 BMW E46 M3. Now, if you want to go for a front engine, rear wheel drive, 6-speed manual, track car, and your budget is, let's say, around $40,000, which one should you go for? SS 1LE you can get for about 35 to 40K, the E46 for about 25. That car needs a bit more in mods to get it up to the same level. This car has about 5K-ish in mods. So I guess in total 40 to 45K. My buddy Fenton from the Zygreen channel is deciding between the SS1LE and the E46 M3 as his next track car. And let's see if we can help him decide. SS1LE is powered by the 6.2 liter naturally aspirated V8. That's the LT1 motor, putting out 455 horsepower and 455 pound-feet of torque. Now, the 1LE package is the one you want if you're tracking this. You get vented satin black hood, front splitter, side skirts, rear spoiler, Brembo 6-piston front brakes, 20-inch wheels with 285 front and 305 rear tires, Magnarite dampers with uprated springs and sway bars, an ELSD with a 3.73 final drive, upgraded cooling, valved exhaust, Recaro seats, Alcantara steering wheel, shift lever, and a color HUD. The car weighs in a little bit over 3,700 pounds. We have strut front, multi-link rear. And in terms of mods, we have, of course, this 9 Lives Racing Big Wang, hard to miss. This thing is, I think, 71 inches wide. And the car, if you're counting the side view mirrors, is 73 inches wide. Very imposing. Well, picnic table, have a snack on this thing. We have negative 3.2 degrees of front camber, negative 2.4 in the rear. Apex SM10 wheels, 19 by 11 with 35 offset, wrapped in Goodyear Eagle F1 305 section with square, giving it a bit more tire in the front compared to a regular 1LE. And as always, full mod list down in the description. To start the car, you can't just press the button. You gotta. There we go. First impressions, visibility extremely limited. You are in a cave looking out. I like how far the steering wheel telescopes, but now, since I'm 6'1", I'm slightly longer legs. This is nice. But this now feels pretty far forward. I need to reach my hand further forward. And technically, it's just that hand width, but you know, I have large, I used to wear 8.5 size gloves in the operating room. And this is like, I think, for most people, this would be more than a hand width. And I wish it was a bit closer. I think the ergonomics here, just a little bit off. But I like that American cars do tend to be a little bit more tall person friendly than certain other countries. Looking at you, Japan. Wow, what an engine, dude. First impressions, this car feels very large. You have limited visibility, feels very wide, feels a bit heavy too. You can feel that it's more than 3,700 pounds. It handles its weight well. Oh, but man, you still feel the heft as you turn. Again, it's a very capable, responsive car, but first impression is yes, also a lot heavier than the S2000 I just got out of. Oh, nice natural throttle response, easy to heel toe. Oh, wow. You start pushing this thing and you see how capable it is. Owner does track this and has set it up quite well. Let's put this up into track mode. It's gonna adjust steering, throttle, and the adaptive dampers. Now we do have rev match here as well. I've just turned rev match on, and it's controlled with these paddles, which is nice. Some companies, they make you go hunt in the infotainment. Here you can quickly set it as you drive. Let's give you guys a pull right here. American V8, nice linear power delivery. That V8 rumble. I keep heel towing, I forgot that rev match is enabled. Let's go third. Yeah, not bad. Pretty good rev match. We're gonna turn that off now. Because if you're gonna drive a car like this, you might as well rev match yourself. But wow, this chassis, as you start pushing it, very capable. Planted, but as you get on the power, it'll give you a bit of slip angle, as you saw back there. Ooh, traction kicking in. The impressive thing about this chassis is that yes, it weighs a lot and you feel that, but considering the size and the weight, they have the engine pretty far back. The front end feels pretty responsive, and we have McPherson strut. We don't even have double wishbone in the front. Feels pretty sharp, feels pretty responsive, and its limits are so high. Now, as you do get on the throttle, especially if you're aggressive with it, you can get, I mean, we have an LSD and it'll want to rotate from the rear in a pretty controllable way. It's a larger car, you have a longer wheelbase too. Throttle response very natural, easy to heel toe. Don't love the placement of the shifter, but the actual throws and the feel of it is very notchy, very mechanical, and I think that on track, this would be nice to use. You don't have super long throws, they're on the shorter side. The gates are wide, so you're not gonna, it reduces the risk of a money shift and increases that ease of use. Driving down the canyons though, you do feel the size. It feels very wide. Brakes have a very linear and progressive bite, not super grabby, which allows you that high resolution modulation throughout the brake travel. And I love how the chassis communicates that weight transfer to you so seamlessly too. You really understand what the car is doing. Granted, it is a little bit, just because of the weight, you still have that communication, but it's like the resolution and immediacy of some of that communication is actually dampened a bit. Like imagine rather than seeing through a clear glass, you have a little bit of like some haziness, or you have a little thin silk screen in front of you that you still get the information, but it's a little bit muted. There's a little bit of a delicacy that's lacking, this nuance and precision and delicacy that I think a lot of American cars don't quite have. And that's not necessarily a good or a bad thing, just a different flavor. And here, this is much more like brute force and, you know, like a sledgehammer kind of thing that has quite an impressive performance envelope, but it's definitely no surgical scalpel. Getting quite a bit of tram lining. Man, so much power though. This would be a riot on track. Steering is a bit on the numb side, but it has a natural ratio to it. Reasonably direct. The front end is doing what you expect it to do. I had pretty high hopes for this car, and I think at the price point, you're getting a ton of performance. I understand why these cars are held in high regard. And at the same time, I'm really curious how it compares to the E46, because that car is, of course, substantially lighter. And we know that the E46 is the best M3 generation. Now this 2002 E46 M3 we've had on the channel before. This is owned by Sergey, And the first time I drove it, I was impressed. It's really well done. It's a very track-focused E46. Initially it was an SMG. He swapped that out for a 5-speed manual transmission because the 6th speed is actually just for highway cruising, and he wanted to save that extra, I think it was like 30-ish pounds or something by going for the 5-speed. You can get one of these for about 25K, and in terms of mods, we're looking at 10 to 15K to get it into this shape. We have a dedicated roll cage properly installed, some choice mods here, great setup, and of course, the owner, Sergey, tracks us quite a bit. We're powered by the S54 engine. That's a 3.2-liter naturally aspirated inline-6, making 333 horsepower, 262 pound-feet of torque. Now, stock weight is a little bit over 3,400 pounds, but he saved a lot of weight with all his mods, including stripping out the interior and such. So we're looking at 3,150 pounds. And we have 295 wheel horsepower. In terms of mods, we still have the ground control one-way coilovers with Coney springs. That's 525 pounds per inch in the front, 650 in the rear. Camber plates, sway bars, Castle Performance tune, PFC 39 pads in the front, PFC 08 pads in the rear. And we're on this secondary street or casual lapping wheel setup. That's 18 by 9.5 inch Titan 7 T D6E forged wheels with a 275 section width Hankook RS4, and that's a square setup. And the proper track setup, which we are not on right now, is Apex VS5 REs, 18 by 10 with 275 RE71 RS tires. Now keep in mind, the running cost for this car, if you get an E46, you got to do the big three: the vanos, the subframe, the rod bearings, and then you're going to be pretty good from a reliability standpoint, but still it's an older car, not going to be quite as reliable as that SS1LE. We do have a CAE shifter as well, compared to last time. That's new. And again, we have these paddles which don't do anything because the SMG has been removed. Ah, that smooth S54 inline 6. You can feel a massive weight difference. This is almost 600 pounds lighter than that Camaro. Wow, yeah, and as you play with the weight transfer on and off throttle, on and off the brakes, you can feel the weight more immediately set. The Camaro obviously has this thing beat for power. Oh, nice ergonomics with the heel toe, the throttle response, all those little details that we like. Oh yeah, dude, she is playful. Oh my god, this car is great, dude. I'm enjoying this even more than last time. So that Camaro had the subframe bushings upgraded, makes it a little bit more communicative. Also, pretty aggressive camber, which helps it really turn in, but you can't get around physics. This car being so much lighter is just so good. You have this level of delicacy and precision that you don't get in the Camaro. You have hydraulic steering here, and by the way, the E46, in my opinion, the best M3 generation. It is just, you have McPherson strut in the front, multi-link in the rear, and still the way they have tuned this, the front end very sharp, very responsive. That hydraulic steering giving you a little bit of communication, a slower steering ratio compared to that Camaro. And while she's not as quick, she is no slouch either. The driving dynamics here are a little bit more playful, a little bit more precise, a bit more balanced. Now for Fenton, if he's going to be taking this to the track, obviously driving the car to and from the track, this car's not going to be as comfortable as something like the Camaro. Newer car, not nearly as loud, better NVH, all those things. The CAE shifter also a big upgrade compared to what we had initially in this car. Some of the lower mileage, really clean ones have a really nice shifter, but this one was a bit tired, rubbery, etc. And there's a little bit of lateral slop here. You can adjust that all with the CAE though. can get that to feel a little bit tighter, but even just the ergonomics here, look, right up here, right next to where my hand is gonna be. In the operating room, we obsess about ergonomics. It helps you be more precise, have a more intentional one-to-one with your input to your output. Reduces fatigue, improves performance. Same thing here in driving, especially when you're going on track. Play with that weight transfer a little bit. You can feel like this communicates at a higher resolution than the SS1LE. Now, while that car is so capable and so performance oriented, and it's still, the chassis is pretty communicative, and it's not this immediate. And again, it comes back to the weight. You have excellent rigidity here too. Proper roll cage. Now, brakes here are grabbier, but keep in mind, with the Camaro, we were actually running stock pads. Whereas here, these are the track pads, as you can tell from the noise. Steering is not tremendously communicative, but moderately so, giving me a lot more than that Camaro. The bucket seats here also holding me in way better than the Recaros in the Camaro, which makes sense. I mean, these are proper buckets. This is obviously a more hardcore build than the Camaro. The nice thing about the Camaro is that straight out of the box, right from factory, it can be quite capable on track. You don't have to do much to it, whereas with the E46, you got to do the big three, and then here the owner has taken it a lot further, but you have the budget to do that since you are saving a lot on the purchase price, 25K versus 35 to 40K. The ground control coilovers, I mean, this is not top shelf stuff, but still pretty good for both street and I'm sure on track as well. What a monster. Let's do a pull. A little traction limited there at first. Woo-hoo! Good brakes, all right. Here's how I would summarize this. The SS1LE, if you crave additional power, if you want something that straight out of the box is gonna be track capable and very performance oriented and put down quick lap times, I get the appeal. Not the greatest visibility, the ergonomics are a little bit funky, not too bad though, and an incredible machine. Not much needed at all to be setting fast lap times. The E46, yes, you gotta do the big three, you gotta modify it a bit more, but it is cheaper, and if you're willing to put in that extra time, money, and effort, then I feel like this is the more fun car. It feels a little bit more in the direction of purity. I mean, it's still a 3 Series that's tarted up, right? So it's not a dedicated sports car, but it is more in that direction versus the SS1LE in the sense that even though the Camaro is a dedicated sports car, this is obviously modified far more extensively, but with the weight savings, with the hydraulic steering, with the overall balance of the chassis, this to me is the car that I would rather have on track. This is the car that even on the canyons puts a bigger smile on my face, although it obviously doesn't make nearly the same power as that SS1LE. But my friends, let me know what you think with a comment down below. If you want your car reviewed, visit us on JabalanCars.com. Much love, my friends, and I'll see you all in that next one.